Hey, what is up? B. All right, we're gonna do a big board today. Got everything set up now. Today wasn't really a whole lot of NFL news. Um, nothing, nothing that I seen at least. Welcome, Victor. So I will go ahead and enter a big board. Right, meow. Had a pretty busy day today. Finally got winded down to sit down and actually relax. It'll be nice. Hopefully, we can get a couple followers again like we did yesterday. So I made a couple changes to my ranks. I moved Jordan Mason up quite a bit. He's I have him he's supposed to be. Yeah, I moved him all the way up here in front of Tootin. So I expect to get him a lot. I mean, if I need a running back at this point, I'll probably end up with him a lot. I assume that he's going to continue to rise. Aaron Jones, like we discussed the other day, he had some fumbling issues, and last year he almost every year he gets hurt for a couple weeks. So at some point, you're almost definitely going to get a starter, and I could see them having a split backfield, and with the Vikings only having 4 picks, they're less likely to draft a running back. Although their team is pretty stacked, so with as stacked as their team is, maybe they don't. Like they can kind of do whatever they want, in my opinion, and be fine. I need to move JJ back up to 3. That's where I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him over Saquon almost every time. I basically make sure my Saquon isn't at 1%. I try to keep it at 2 or 3. I don't really like taking him, but I also refuse to be completely buried by him like I was last year. Like I still think Bijan's the better pick. I just based on what they did last year with kind of phasing Algier out a little bit more every week at the end of the season, and Bijan having some monster games at the end of the year, and Penix made that offense look a lot better than Cousins did. I just think altogether their offense is going to be very good. Um, and maybe, maybe not, but that's a bet I'm willing to make. All right, so I pulled the 108, number 12, the 12 hole. Don't take my guy. Love it. What a name. I'm sure. I'm sure he does. He never gets upset when he has a plan and it doesn't come together. I don't see any. I'm not familiar with any of these names. The draft I did yesterday, the I think it was the 5 hole was a user named I Love Bears. I did not know, but that is Anthony. If I would have realized that was his username, I would have called him out. I did not. All right, so hopefully I cut I want to get some more Puka and Brian Thomas and Nico. I'm not out on CD Lamb at all. but I don't want like I think I would rather have more Puka, JJ, and Nico and Thomas than Lamb. Like whenever my exposures all even out, so I'm kind of happy every time CD Lamb goes, just because it's one more time I don't have to think about taking him. And I mean, the best part about CD Lamb is Dak Prescott is cheap enough. So it looks like, and I might just take, I don't have very much Amon. Him and CD Lamb, like, I kind of want to pick the players I want a little bit more of. And I like all of these players from CD Lamb all the way to Malik Neighbors. But I don't want to be under on Malik, and I'm sitting right at ADP. Hey, there we go. That's the player I wanted. Got Nico. Um, but I think I'm more comfortable being a little lighter on CD and Amon than I am if I was going to be light on Brian Thomas or Puka or Nico. I mean CD Lamb and Amon are awesome, but I just I feel better about those players. And Amon, if Ben Johnson was still there, I would just have him at pick 5. I'm just kind of curious if they're going to stay as good this year with Ben Johnson being gone, and they lost one of their really good offensive linemen. And that team is built around running the ball. Like I said yesterday, they had 480 touches between the two running backs last year. That is a lot of touches for two guys. So yeah, and with the new offense, like they scored, I believe it was 30 or 31 points a game or something crazy. I'll look that up real quick. Uh, Detroit scored 33. They had 33 points a game. With Ben Johnson gone, I don't think that's going to be the same. They had 33. The next 33.1. The next highest was Buffalo at 30.6. And Baltimore at 30.1. And then Tampa Bay and Philly at 29. Washington at 28.8. Cincinnati at 27. Green Bay 26.1. And then there's a big gap to 24 with like 5 teams between 22 and 24. Or no, there's like 12 teams between 22 and 24. So I don't think that the 33 points is sustainable. And I think, all right, so it's odd I don't have a Puka and Drake London team. So we'll go ahead and do that. Yep. Feel good about that. Yeah. So that's one reason I'm like, with their offensive coordinator leaving, one of their offensive linemen leaving, and the insane amount of points per game they had last year. I don't know how that ranks all time. Uh, NFL all time points per game. So they ranked, was it 17th all time in points per game. I don't see that happening again with a new offensive coordinator. And I could absolutely be wrong, but yeah, but they also lost an offensive lineman. So not only did they lose the offensive coordinator, we don't know if the new offensive coordinator, like what he's gonna do, or if he's gonna be if he actually learned well, or if he's gonna try to run a different style of offense. I think it was a guard that they lost, and a lot of their runs are off tackle, so that's right at where their hole would be. So if they don't sustain the running, like last year, their running game was insane. Like it was laughable watching people try to block it because nobody could come close. So it'll probably still be good, but 33 points a game is a lot. And if they move down to 30 points a game, which was number 2 last year, that that's a touchdown less every 2 weeks. So that's what, 9 less touchdowns over the season. That's quite a bit. And Almon actually ran really hot on touchdowns. I believe he had 12 touchdowns or something. Yeah, he had 12 touchdowns. He had 10 the year before. And I mean that might be just sustainable, but I mean, you have Gibbs, you have him, you have Laporta, you have JMO, you have Montgomery. All of those players are going to get points. And him having 12 last year as a non-running back, like it I have a hard time believing it's going to happen again. I could be wrong. And if you look at the rest of his stats, I mean, I'm not saying 115 receptions, 1260 yards is bad. Like that's actually really good. But if you take 4 touchdowns off that, he had 258 points last year. So you take 4 touchdowns off, and that's a more marginal season than you want from somebody in the first round. And that's what I kind of think will happen. All right, do I take I think I just take Marvin Harrison, and if Devontae comes back, I go ahead and stack there. If Devontae doesn't come back, I might go ahead and take a quarterback. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, bring the board up for the first time. I'm kind of lagging behind. First round looks pretty normal. Second round also looks pretty normal. Garrett Wilson at 22. That's fine. Like I'm not going to do that ever. Like I have a hard time clicking him at 30, but it's fine. Like it's not a bad pick. It's just a pick I'm not going to make very often. And kind of from JSN all the way to I kind of all the way to Mike Evans are pretty pretty close to the same. You could even say all the way down to like pick 41. Like that range is pretty even in my opinion. Um, Trey McBride goes at 26. I think as the season goes along, I think we'll see him at the back end of the second a little more than the early third. There's there's a pretty big like touchdown regression that is he's due for. Like that doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but he's due for it. Hey, maybe I'll get Chase Brown here. Nope. Chase Brown goes. Do I just take Amari and Hampton here? Yeah, I'll just take Amari and Hampton. I That's about 7 picks higher than he usually goes over in here, but I'm gonna just start taking him on this side as soon as Evans, Adams, if the quarterbacks, basically these exact players if all of these above him are gone, I'm probably going to take Hampton almost every time now. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I was kind of like, he's one of those guys. I was really on him before he rose in ADP, and I don't want to be scared away from taking him more now that he's actually being looked at the way I was looking at him. And I don't see very many places that need a running, like if he lands at a spot that actually needs a running back, he's going to destroy the draft capital that you're putting in. Jalen Hurts, naked right here. No AJ Brown. Took him before the AJ Brown drafter. I'm sure old Beardy Boy, Beardy Boy 2. Apparently, Beardy Boy was taken, so he had to be Beardy Boy 2. Got to commit. That guy committed. All the way, all in on the Beardy Boy name. We got the classic Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow with your first 4 picks. That's incredibly easy to do. I personally will, if I have T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, or T. Higgins and Chase, I'm not going to take Joe Burrow here. I'm going to push him and see if he comes back to 72. But since he's a pocket quarterback, if you don't have a stack, he's not near as good. Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins are perfectly fine without Burrow. You obviously want Burrow, but I've successfully pushed Burrow to 72 like 3 times now, so I'm not gonna. I'm pretty much not going to do that on Underdog. On Drafters, maybe. Like the Drafters community just takes people whenever. And in a room like this where somebody already took Jalen Hurts here, like that's not a bad pick on Jalen Hurts. I'm not trying to dog that. Like I actually like what he's done. But you see something like that, and it makes you a little curious, like skeptical to do that. Go ahead and take Chris Godwin. The thumbnail today was Chuba Hubbard on his value, if it's good or bad. Well, I like Chuba when he was going, like he started this cycle going over here about where Mike Evans did. And I didn't love it then, but he tended to fall quite a bit and go right here on like Chase Brown or so. And he just keeps falling. And I've liked him as a pick from like 41 all the way back. He's one of the safest pick. Like there was a little question. Like I understand why he was falling at first, because they like Jonathan Brooks is hurt. Chuba, they already drafted somebody to replace Chuba whenever they got Jonathan Brooks, but they did sign Chuba Hubbard to a deal that I believe he's under contract till 2028 now. Like they want him on that team. They paid him. And after free agency, or free agency still going on, but I mean, they went out and got Rico Dowdle. They paid Rico, I think it was like $6 million a year. That's reasonable money. Rico will get some touches, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for Chuba. I mean, if he has a competent backup, that means that like they're more likely to be successful when he's off the field, right? So I don't necessarily think that, and with them paying Rico that and already extending Chuba, that to me that means that they're completely out on drafting a running back in the first 3 rounds. Like I would personally be very surprised if they do that. Um, so I love that you're getting a guy who overperformed his ADP last year, and like they leaned on him, and uh, continue that in a second. I don't want a second rookie here. I might just go ahead and take James Conner to complete with the Marvin Harrison here. And then in 2 rounds, if Kyler Murray is still there, I'll take Kyler. But yeah, so Chuba's just it. You know he's gonna do things. You know he's gonna be a very solid running back. Last year, 10 touchdowns, 1,195 yards, 220 total points. That's and a receiving like 43 receptions is pretty solid, and a touchdown receiving. So he had 11 touchdowns, 1,200 yards or 1,300 yards. You're giving me that in the 5th round, and he's going to have the same workload on a team whose offense struggled at the beginning of the year last year and came on late. A team that can't possibly draft enough players on defense to make it good. Like they were so bad last year. They'd have to have like 35 picks to draft enough people to make their defense like actually good. And even then, they'd all be rookies making mistakes. So they just I want teams that have a chance to have really good offenses and like below average defenses. Like, and they have a chance to be much better than they were last year on offense. Like, even if they're winning loss records 6-11 again, they could do that and score 5 more points a game. And that's something you want a part of in this. Like, that's why I'm so heavy. I'm going to try to leave every draft with a Bengal if possible. Like, I'm not going to overextend for him, but I'm going to start taking a whole bunch of Mike Gesicki at the end and possibly add in Andre Yoshivas as like a last round pick if he's there. So, like I want like at least every other draft I want to have a Bengal. And that's pretty hard to do considering that T. Higgins, I mean, Jamar Chase goes at 1. So that leaves you with Gesicki, Chase Brown, and T. Higgins. So it's probably not a doable thing, but it's something I'm going to, like, if I leave with a Bengals player, I'm going to feel better about the draft. And I'm kind of feeling that, like, with Chuba and Rico, if I get one of those two, I feel pretty solid because, like, Rico will probably do a little bit, even in a backup role. Like, and I don't really know if they have a chance to, like, if he has a chance to win the job. So I need to start taking a little bit more Luther Burden. If he falls here, I'll take him over the guy I like more, Agbuka. I just need some more shares of him. I've been kind of out on him. He does have elite upside, but Pro Football Focus, I'll go ahead and go to their new big board. They put out their new big board, so this number right here is the overall rank, including all positions. And they have Luther Burden as the 15th best prospect. I don't know that I've seen that a whole lot of other places, but I do trust the people that do the rankings and stuff here somewhat. But other than that, like everything that's here, I'm heavy on Abuka, heavy on Golden, pretty heavy on Io Manor and Besh and Higgins and Restrepo and Noel, and not as high on Royals and like those guys. So looks like so far, like if they are correct, I am correct. And this looks quite a bit different than it did before. Then we'll go ahead and go to the running backs real quick. And this is almost exactly how I had it. I had Scadabo and Judkins separated, and then I had Henderson behind Judkins. But Genty, Hampton, Scadabo, Judkins, Sampson, Caleb Johnson. I agree. I kind of like Dylan Sampson more than Caleb Johnson. But if Caleb Johnson works out, Caleb Johnson's going to work out in a very big way. Like his running side, like he's very, I believe he's very scheme dependent. If he gets to a team that will let him like not be touched before the line of scrimmage, and he gets to get the ball rolling and get his momentum going, kind of like he's not by any means Derrick Henry, but that's kind of how Derrick Henry runs. Is if he can get that head of steam going, watch out. And Caleb Johnson has a little bit to that in his game. This is perfect. Got James Conner, Marvin Harrison. Go ahead and lock up most of Arizona's offense with that pick. Maybe they play the Rams in week 17. Get lucky there. I still have other quarterbacks available, so that was exactly what I wanted. But yeah, so I like Dylan Sampson pretty close to the same amount that I like Caleb Johnson. But Dylan Sampson goes at pick 140 and Caleb Johnson goes at pick 80. So obviously I have quite a bit. I have like 15% Sampson and like 3 or 4% Caleb Johnson. And Caleb Johnson is a player. Like if Caleb Johnson ends up going to, let's say, the Ravens, like for this year, I don't know how much I would love it, but him getting to sit a year, like work with Derrick Henry for a year, and getting Lamar like to open up the running lanes for him for Dynasty, he would be an absolute monster. But if he goes to a team that has a really bad offensive line, let's say I mean, it wouldn't happen, but like, it's kind of like with Kenneth Walker right now with Seattle. Like, K. Walker can make plays behind a bad offensive line. If Caleb Johnson was there, I don't think it would look very good. He requires a little more setup. But once he gets going, he'll break through any arm tackle. He doesn't like when he gets hit, it's like 50-50 on if he goes down. But like he could definitely run through some tackles. And if it's not a full on tackle, he's absolutely not going to go down. All right, so yeah, I've not seen anything crazy this draft. I'm personally out on Cooper Kupp at 84. I don't think it's a good fit hit there. If it burns me, it burns me. Everything else, Stevenson, I need to take him a little more. Like I just do. There's a player that's still available that I would be incredibly happy to get back that never makes it as far as he's going right now. Um, let's see what the one hole did. So he's got Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy with Pearsall. Yeah, that's a really good team. Hero running back Bucky Irving. I like it. So let's hope this player does not take any purple. No purple. He did not take purple. So Baker Mayfield. Now, with those two quarterbacks, I feel pretty good. I'm probably done. Like if Stafford falls around or Penix falls around, I'll go ahead and add him. But I'm not going to take another quarterback like at ADP. I got a falling value here. Let's try to push that value into another position. And I mean, I guess if like Anthony Richardson falls to like 170 or something, I might take him as a spike week guy. He's been falling a little bit. A lot of people are scared that Daniel Jones is definitely going to start some games. I I'm not saying they're wrong. They they Anthony Richardson has some issues, but he did hire the quarterback coach, and hopefully they can get a fix. It was the same quarterback coach that helped Josh Allen, so I'm actually a fan of Anthony Richardson. I like him. I think he could be incredibly fun to watch, but he has to fix some problems. Like he has a lot of problems. There was a video that come out after week 1 last year that it was every throw that Anthony Richardson threw in week 1, and it was quite hilarious because every single throw he threw as hard as he could, no matter what the distance between him and the receiver was. Like there was a bunch of like 5 yard passes that he threw like 70 miles an hour. It's like, what are you doing? So he needs to learn a little bit of touch like that. It was a pretty fun video. Like not for I'm sure Colts fans didn't think it was very fun, but I thought it was pretty fun personally. All right, so didn't get the Njoku, which I was hoping to get. I feel really good about this. Um, I like Scatabo a lot, but I do want to get a little bit more Tank Bigsby. I think I've sold myself on Bigsby being Bigsby actually gonna at least split, and if they draft somebody, they'll draft somebody to replace ETN. I'm not buying the ETN. I've discussed that before. I think Bigsby is a better runner of the ball, and we have a new coaching staff. They're not going to care that Travis Etienne was drafted at the is it the first pick of the second round or the back end of the first round. Like they're not going to care about the draft capital that was invested. They're just the new regime is not going to care. And last year, if you look at efficiency, Tank Bigsby was a lot better. And Tank Bigsby also had what was the Hayden Winks chart yesterday? It was I can't remember what it was, but he was number 5 on that list. Yeah, I can't remember. We'll go look it up. I believe it was Hayden that missed tackles force. That's what it was. I knew it was a very good stat, but this is a list you want to be on. So, and Bucky Irving was number 1 in that coming out of college I think he was number 1 in that coming out of college for the class. Tank Bigsby last year being up there with the rest of these guys, like Jordan Mason also, like those 3 guys everybody can agree is really good. These 2 players being on that list means that they're probably undervalued in these drafts. This might be a team where I go ahead and just finish out the draft with 4 tight ends and not take one very early. I've been doing that a little more. If I don't get a tight end by Njoku, I kind of like if I feel confident in my receiving core and my running back core because you cut off one, like if I cut off one quarterback, that's one more tight end, right? So if I want to stay with Kyler and Baker, I can just go 4 tight ends at the end and then hope that they bounce weeks back and forth. Jordan Mason, that was going to be who I was going to take here. Gets jumped up 40 spots in ADP. I think that this is going to be pretty common. He's going to start going around there. Well, Evan Ingram, welcome to the squad. First tight end. I wasn't brave enough to click him before he had a team. I thought a lot of teams. I was wrong in my analysis on that. It does make sense that only a team that's looking for a receiving tight end would have had interest in him. So that was a mistake on my part. If I would have realized that, and I probably would have had a little bit more of him. But I also really liked some of the players going there. That's like I was basically taking Dylan Sampson over him, and I actually don't really regret that. Like, because at the time I just liked, and I still like Dylan Sampson a lot. So, but yeah, if Penix falls back, I might just go ahead and take Penix. That'd be a few picks of ADP value. Puka, London. Yeah, that would be. I think that's what we do. Go ahead and take Penix if he falls back. He should. Nobody on this side. I think Darnell Mooney went on this side of the board. Yep. Darnell Mooney went at pick 101. So, unless somebody plans on taking like Penix plus Kyle Pitts, or take Penix here and then Kyle Pitts in the following round, like, don't really have a reason to take him. Xavier Legette's also a player I haven't been able to get in on. Jalen Coker looked really good at the end of last year. I will take Coker straight up over Legette, and you can get Coker 20 picks past where Xavier Legette goes. So I'm kind of sitting out on Legette at the moment. I'll take him. Like, if I was there and I wanted to take a second quarterback, I might have taken Legette and Bryce Young, and then hoped that Coker made it back to 156. Like, because that's something that can happen. And I've got a few shares of Legette doing that, like taking Bryce Young at like 142, and then Legette fell. So, all right. I could take Rico. I think I go ahead and lock up Penix. Have the number one wide receiver on both of these teams, possibly the number one on this one, stacked. Like last year, if you want to look at points per game, Chris Godwin was number 2 in the league in points per game throughout the whole season. Who knows what he would have ended up with if he would have played every game. He might have ended up, like, I don't think he would have reached Ja'Marr Chase numbers, but he had 16 points. What was it? So, yeah, he was 20 points a game. That's nuts. But there was only, yeah, so he was up there with Amon, Puka, Jefferson, Higgins as only 6 players in the league that had more than 15 points per game at wide receiver, and Ja'Marr Chase by himself up there. But he was 16 points a game, and the only person above 16 other than Ja'Marr Chase. So with the amount of money that they gave him, I'm going to assume that knee is very healthy. Like they're probably not worried about it at all. And even if he doesn't play the first couple weeks, that's fine. Like McMillan's good enough to keep the offense running, and it's not like Godwin isn't gonna come back and just take over a role. Like he was so good in the slot last year. Like he looked he so when on a drafters tournament that I was in before Chris Godwin went down, I was number 6 or 7 in that league. The top 14 players all had no, it was like the I think it was top 25 players. It's like 20 to 25 players all had Chris Godwin because he was that good. Now, that is total points, so it makes sense that the best the best points per game player is going to be there. And that was before Jamar Chase had a bunch of blow ups and before Saquon had a bunch of huge games. So that changed pretty quick as soon as he got hurt because then it might have been the week he got hurt that Chase had his monster game. I would be ecstatic if Rico makes it back. I really don't want to have to click Kyle Pitts. Okay, thank you. I don't know who you are, but Datola, we're now friends. Taking Kyle Pitts, allowing me to once again not click Kyle Pitts. I love it. Thank you. I so Romeo Dobbs is another one of those players that I'm having trouble getting to. I think it's very very likely that the Packers draft somebody and draft somebody early. And they went out and signed a guard or I think it was a guard, but they paid or signed an offensive lineman just to reinforce that all they want to do is run the ball. Now this is really late, and at this price, like 600 yards and 5 touchdowns is perfectly fine, and that's kind of something that Dobbs can do. But he got a little diva in him last year, and then he got hurt. So, like, I don't know what to do there in Green Bay. I don't really like any of the receivers. I had quite a bit of Jaden Reed last year and a bunch of Dontavian Wicks last year. And Dobbs might have been the better pick than them, but none of them really was awesome for anybody. Like that passing game. And supposedly Jordan Love was hurt. Like after he got hurt, he was never actually healthy. I, I don't know. Like I don't see that passing game being an elite passing game unless they draft somebody, a wide receiver, or trade for a wide receiver that will relieve pressure off of the rest of them. And then if that happens, well, then that guy is going to be the star, and a number 2 wide receiver in a run heavy team isn't really a target I'm super interested in. And one pick away. Wow. All running backs for me right here. Look at this. Running backs everywhere. But ADP, it's kind of the same. This would be a really good spot for a Dylan Sampson chair. And then maybe Cade Otton comes all the way back. Cade Otton, for like, since the Chris Godwin news, Cade Otton has been slipping. So I think there's a pretty good drop off after Sampson. Like I still love Damian Martinez. but I think he's I think he's very likely to go to a team who needs a goal line back, and for him to get have a couple 2 touchdown 40-yard games this season. Perfect landing spot would be the Bengals. If Damian Martinez goes to the Bengals, watch out. I'm at least going to be happy. I don't know if other people will be happy, but I will be happy. All right, so Green Bay actually scored 26 points a game last year, which I would not have guessed. I did not think their offense was that good last year. I know that nobody could stop uh, Josh Jacobs the entire second half of the season, but and they had a couple bad games early when Love was hurt, so maybe I need to reevaluate it. Maybe I'm off on that. I know a lot of like Sean Siegel, he's very very good at like seeing who like he's got very strong takes and he's right quite a bit. So, and he loves Jordan Love as a thrower. I I'm still like I know he has the potential, and upgrading the offensive line, like I don't think ever upgrading the offensive line is a bad idea. But they definitely need some another like they need an elite wide receiver, and whatever happens there, like Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and Dontavian Wicks, one of them are going to have to kind of fade out of that offense completely if they're going to be a run heavy team. If they decide to be a pass heavy team, also, Tucker Kraft is a really good tight end. Like, he's been falling lately, too. I don't know why he's been sliding. So, I would love to get K. Dot in here. Thank you. But yeah, he's been falling since Chris Godwin signed, but I'm still fine with that. Like, as my second tight end, Evan Engram, K. Dotton, all I need is a week or two from each of them. I probably need to add to my wide receiver room. I haven't taken one since pick 80. My last 7, 8 picks have all been non wide receiver. But, I mean, I'm pretty stacked at wide receiver. So I don't feel like I still don't feel like I really need to. Like if I would have taken another one over like if I would have taken where's Tank? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have felt good about stopping at 6 if it was Hollywood. Maybe that needed to be Marvin Mims or Steph Diggs. But it's whatever. Alec Iomanner is finally starting to get the respect that he deserves. So he used to just sit there at 180 like 185, 190 every single draft. He was just available all the time. But yeah, like I said earlier, I want to get a piece of the Bengals as often as possible. I need to just go ahead and move him up over Pat Fryermuth because I don't see myself taking Fryermuth over Gesicki. Um, I feel pretty comfortable with this running back room. I'll add on one later. Like if this was an 18 round draft, I would be completely content stopping at those running backs. And I wouldn't have taken Penix in that case either. Like I definitely would not have taken Michael Penix. So the whole team after that would have looked different. I probably would have just taken Rico 10 picks before I had to. And then Sampson and then Otten and everything looked the same, except for I would have Iomanner there. Right. Look at ADP. So I feel really good about those players. I think I'm going to go ahead and take a rookie shot. I love Xavier Restrepo. We'll take him. And as you see in my ranks, Ollie Gordon is nowhere near. I took him completely out of my ranks. Um, and whenever I click to ADP, if I see he's there at like 210 or so, I will take him down here. But I just expect somebody's going to take him before I'm willing to every time. And that's good news for me. Then I don't have to make that decision. So, let me know, Victor, is the sound pretty good? And like the sound and video. I just want to make sure that all that stuff works out pretty well. I'm still kind of trying to get everything organized. Oh, good. Thank you. And make sure that works. Yep. Might work on this real quick. There, I think I like that size a little better on the chat. Nick Chubb, also a guy I can't get to. I can't do it. So honestly, I like Jack Beck more than Xavier Restrepo. But it's very close. Like, I probably like the order is probably Jack Besh, Xavier Restrepo, then Io Manor, and then no, it's probably Besh, Restrepo, Jalen Knoll, who hasn't went yet, then Io Manor. But I kind of view them all exactly the same. So like I just kind of take them wherever. I got loaded up on. So Io Manor used to go like 150, then he dropped down to 180. Now he's going back. Restrepo started at like 120, and I was actually clicking him there. Like I was in there as well. So I stopped taking him completely because I was obviously too high on him. He was obviously going to fall, so I waited a couple weeks to click him again because I was getting him almost every draft. And the only thing I could really do was wait to see where I could, like, continuing to click him would have just meant that I just had bad ADPs. So I waited I waited about a week and a half before I noticed where he was stabilizing. All right, so we have 3-6-5-2. I definitely need another wide receiver or another tight end. But man, Damian Martinez is here. Well, if you're going to make me do it, I guess I'll do it. I'm going to have a very hard time not taking him at that pick every single draft. So, either one of those two players, I'll be happy with. There's a couple wide receiver. I went over like what I like in the last round. I like those deep threat spike week receivers now. I personally think that like I've been starting to try to finish my running backs by 209, and if I'm going to get 8 receivers, I usually try to get two in the last round, two of those guys, and get a really strong base. If I don't have a really strong base, if I want to like two running backs by round 4, I'll usually only take my last round as a wide receiver and try to finish up receiver around here other than the one. Just try to like kind of play like a market style game with it. Higbee's the one I actually want. So Harold Fannon's epic slide continues. And I would be in on I like Dalton Schultz. He just doesn't have elite upside. So let's look at what I have. I have Atlanta, Tampa Bay, both in the South. That's solid. Possible bring back on either one of them with Carolina. I have Arizona. Possible bring back with the Rams if we get those matchups. So, kind of looking if I can with these, like, so my last round pick, if he's there, will probably be MVS because it's another potential out with the Arizona game. And then not sure who I would want in the South. Like, I mean, honestly, if it comes back around to Michael Wilson's there, I'm just going to take Michael Wilson. And MVS, that would be the dream. Why is I just changed my rankings. Why is NWH ahead of MVS? That is not accurate. And Turpin should be because I'm not on my rankings. There we go. Found it. Found the issue. Let's see if anybody's doing anything crazy down here. Actually, that's what I need to do. I need to go add Raheem Mostert to my list. He got signed by the Raiders. Yeah, thanks. Yep. Not all heroes wear capes. But I do my best. Yeah, the issue was definitely them. They caused this. It was all their fault. Oh, thank you. But yeah, absolutely their fault. They created this system. I had a problem with the system, which makes it their fault. That's how it works, right? That's how I believe it works. So that's probably a little background noise there, I assume. I definitely want MVS here, so I'm going to go ahead and just take him. Like these last 4 rounds, ADP matters a lot less. Since I have 2 rookies down here, I don't really want a third. If I had 5 veteran receivers, I wouldn't mind finishing with 3, but I only have 4. So 4 solid veteran receivers, so I'm probably going to finish with 2 more veteran receivers. So like Tucker, MVS, Turpin, I could probably add some Malachi Corley. The Jets don't really have a wide receiver 2 right now. But I mean, Justin Fields isn't really known for being awesome at throwing the ball. He's an awesome fantasy option for sure. And but yeah, he does need to work on the throwing a little bit. Oh, that other PPR Tyler stream just started. I always keep it on just to know, like, I go enter the room and then just keep the sound on. And whenever it launches, then if I'm doing something, I just walk over. I do that with pretty much all the streams I watch. I just chill in the pre-draft chat, and whenever it starts, I hear it and I stop doing whatever I was doing to listen. But if you're watching this after the fact, if you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. So Will Shipley's a guy I actually really like him. Gainwell's not there anymore, so I will take the deep threat again and Turpin. They paid him to come back, and I believe they paid him a reasonable amount of money. So actually, we'll look it up right now. Turpin. My brain froze for a second. So yeah, 4 million a year basically. That's that's pretty good. Like for a wide receiver 3, and I kind of think that he'll be the wide receiver 2 when it's all said and done. So go over the team. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, all stacked with their number 1 option, assuming Chris Godwin is the number 1 over Mike Evans. Omarion Hampton, James Conner, also a mini stack. Tank Bigsby, Rico Dowdle, Dylan Sampson, Damian Martinez, Puka Nacua, Drake London, Marvin Harrison, Chris Godwin, Luther Burden, Xavier Restrepo, MVS, Cavante Turpin. Tight ends, the weak part of the team, Evan Ingram, K. Dotton, Tyler Higbee. All of these players have potential to have good weeks. So that's what you want. You want people to have upside for the playoffs. Anyway, thanks for coming out. I'll stream tomorrow. It'll be earlier. I will post it probably about an hour before I stream. All right. Thank you.